Let's talk now to Marc Ostwald, who's Chief Economist and Global Strategist at ADM Investor Services International. Good to see you again, Marc. Thanks for coming back on the programme. So what do you make of these numbers then? What do they suggest about the health of China's economy?
They suggest basically it's still there's still not a lot of traction, but the rebound that one can see in sectors which were very vulnerable to the tariffs have clearly benefited from the trade truce. If you look at the breakdown of the services PMI, I think, or non-manufacturing PMI, more significant is the fact that basically the sectors which were doing well were all production related, and the sectors which didn't do so well, above all hospitality, were service related. So that, or rather consumption related, and that signals that consumer demand remains rather lackluster, despite the incentives, which have clearly had a good effect, as one's been able to see in the retail sales numbers, for buying new for old products. But it's still a very patchy picture. The other data out today, in terms of land sale revenues being sharply lower, property sales also lower, underline the fundamental problem that the property sector drag remains substantial. And it's not easy to solve. Fundamentally, it is about demographics. There is no simple solution other than gradually trying to sort out some of the property sector's debts. Ring-fencing it, to me, still looks the best option.
Given, though, that these numbers, the data rather, was taken under the shadow of US tariffs and geopolitical tensions, how much are those things holding it back? Could they have been higher if those weren't in place?
Oh, I think that's definitely true, particularly the production numbers could probably be a lot stronger if there weren't that threat. That said, when one looked at the last set of trade data, it was quite clear that exports outside of the United States, despite those falling more than 30%, were actually still growing very strongly, around about 11%. And that is both down to Asia, improvement in Europe, and that's good news for the Chinese economy without a shadow of a doubt, even though missing out on some of the business that they used to do with the US is obviously something of a headwind. So, I think the stimulus measures, they're definitely helping stabilize the economy, even give it a little bit of a boost. The big question from here really is, with some better signs in terms of growth, what do the authorities do in terms of further stimulus, both monetary and fiscal? To some extent, they may basically say, well, there's no urgency to do more because what we've done is getting traction. On the other hand, there are indications that it probably will fade somewhat during the third quarter. So why not give it that extra boost? And that, to me, is probably the biggest question for the third quarter. Will there be a little bit of extra boost just to add a little bit of impetus?
Marc, good to talk to you as always. Thank you for coming on the programme. Marc Ostwald there from ADM Investor Services International.